From being a former anorexic, I wanted to share my experience from dealing with anorexia and how I overcame it. I guess I can start from the beginning. So, I started dealing with anorexia when I was 12 years old. Now, before then, growing up as a child, I never had a problem with food. I was never really much of a picky either. Growing up with my relatives, they taught me to basically, whatever anyone serves you, you sit there and you finish that fucking food. You're not leaving the fucking table. You sit there and eat it, enjoy it. Lucky for me, also, I don't have any food allergies, so there wasn't anything that would stop me from not trying certain foods. But what caused me to become anorexic at the age of 12, without knowing what anorexia was or anything like that, was on the behalf of my relatives. What caused my anorexia was when I came back from vacation. My relatives saw me and made fun of my body. Now, mind you, I've been emotionally, physically, and verbally abused by my relatives. And the fact that they made fun of how my appearance was made me feel so disgusted, like, because I basically ate a lot of cheese and bread on my vacation, and it caused me to have a bit of a belly. And basically, my relative telling me that it looks like I ate a basketball and that I don't look good with weight. Now, hearing those exact words hit me to the core, where I thought, all right, going into sixth grade, I am gonna quit eating. I'm gonna slowly. I'm sorry. This is how I thought in my little child brain. This is what I thought. I thought, all right, I'm gonna stop eating, but I'm gonna slowly get myself into eating very little each day. So every time I went to school, instead of eating breakfast, I would skip breakfast. I was, eat lunch a little bit, but then I wanted to push myself even further. So I would say, all right, today you're gonna stop eating breakfast and you're gonna stop eating lunch. And slowly after doing that, I started to push myself to the point where, you know what, you're not gonna eat lunch, you're not gonna eat breakfast, you're not gonna drink anything. You're just gonna go the whole school every day for 5 days a week, not eating breakfast, not eating lunch, not staying hydrated, and just starve yourself for 8 hours a day. And I've done this to myself because I was afraid of being fat. I was afraid of my relatives making fun of me for being fat, and I didn't want that on me. So I thought, okay, the best way for me to help myself was to eat less, because that's all I knew. All I knew is that the more you eat, the more weight you gain. The less you eat, the skinny you are. So that's just how I kept with the regimen for months and months. Now, the only time I ate was when, as soon as I came home at 4 o'clock, I would make something really quick, stuff my face, and then that's it. So basically, I will eat once a day. I'll probably eat like a small meal, like ramen noodles or like leftovers of dinner. Maybe I'll just snack on candy, and that's it. And now this continued all the way till high school. So I never really saw the impact on how it affected my body. The only thing I realized that I was very exhausted, and I also was pretty weak, and I fainted several times. The sad thing is that everyone around me saw how skinny I was getting, but no one really tried to get me help. Like, my relatives would still say shit behind my back, saying like, "Oh my god, I look so scrawny." What really hurt me the most too, once I got into high school, was when one of my relatives told me that no man would ever want me because I'm so skinny, which still to this day it still hurts to the fucking core, because uh, it's painful. It's painful to actually hear that from someone that should build you up, that should make you feel, like you're a great person, not put you down because you look a certain way. But That's what my family did. They put me down. They did nothing to really lift me up. They didn't really do anything to actually help me get better. And the longer I stay with these abusive relatives, the worse my health declined, not just physically in my body, but also mentally, because I was dealing with severe depression. And I remember every day from the age of 12 all the way till I was 20 years old. Well, actually, 23. I just always thought about killing myself every single day, every day, because that's how miserable I was. And it also didn't help either that once I got away from these abusive relatives, I also went to a toxic relationship. Where in this toxic romantic relationship, I got made fun of again with my appearance. That how I look without clothes, I basically look like a boy because I'm so skinny. And also, honestly, that person just made me feel unwanted, unloved, and just disgusted with myself. And I already felt that before with my relatives. So it didn't make me feel too great. And I, once I started to get help for myself, was when I went into the psych ward, which was a couple of years back. The reason why I went into this psych ward was not for my anorexia. It was actually for something else, but I'm not going to get into that. But I remember asking the nurses and the doctors there, like, hey, listen, I have this other problem, which is my anorexia. Can you help me? And the only thing, the only thing they did for me to help me was just feed me ice cream 3 times a day with my meals and drink Ensure. So I had Ensures and ice cream 3 times a day. Now, lucky for me, I have a sweet tooth, so I was enjoying eating ice cream. I do like Ensures. I'm like, because they're really tasty. When it comes to the flavors of Ensure, I prefer the chocolate or the vanilla. I'm not too crazy about the strawberry, but they're all good. But lucky for me, I had a sweet tooth. And also the medication they were giving me also too was to help me gain weight as well. What really concerned me though, that even though anorexia was one of the problems I was dealing with, I'm surprised that the hospital did not want to check in to figure out why I have anorexia, how long I've been having anorexia. None of that came along. They're just like, here's Ensure, here's ice cream, here's pills. That's it. That will help you. Which, it did help me, but I kind of wish that there was more of a in-depth mental insight of like wondering what got me down this path. And they didn't do that. They just fed me shit. Well, honestly, if it wasn't for myself to getting myself help, I don't think I would ever gotten any help. No one has never cared enough to actually guide me or tell me like, hey, listen, we should take you somewhere to get help. Because honestly, with someone who's dealing with anorexia, you can't just force a person and give them food and be like, eat this now. It's very much a psychological thing that people don't understand with dealing with anorexia. Like when I first started becoming anorexic, um, it became a form of control, like controlling how I look, controlling anything that I couldn't control around me. But then also within that control, it became an addiction. Now, a lot of people don't understand when I say it's an addiction. I mean, I be just, I don't know how to explain it in a way that would make sense to others, but to me, it was an addiction. I enjoyed the fact of how my body felt starving itself when I didn't eat. I enjoyed looking so skinny where I just looked like a stick. I realized when my anorexia progressed, I was pretty picky when it came to food. Like, I didn't like the texture of how eggs taste. I didn't like the texture of how chewy steak would taste. So I became very picky. Like, I didn't want to eat certain foods. If it tastes a certain way, I would throw it out or spit it out. I would just ignore food. Now, my relationship with food has changed to the point where I actually want to enjoy the food I'm eating. I'm very sensitive when it comes to the topics of like my weight and food, and I'm still forming a healthy relationship with food. So it's tough. It's tough being healthy. I'm pretty lucky that I don't experience many health problems because I've been anorexic for 12 years, or a little over 12 years, I should say. So it's been a very tough battle. But I do try to make sure that any personal problems I'm dealing with doesn't affect how I eat, because if I'm highly depressed or highly stressed, it does affect how I take care of myself and how I eat. So I try to bring that to a minimum. And I honestly do think that when it comes to like the mental health system, I think that the if people are dealing with any type of eating disorders, that should be addressed as well as any other type of mental health that they're dealing with. Like if they're, if they have bipolar, if they're schizo, drug abuse, whatever, all that should be considered like worked on all together and not just pinpoint one or the other.